Yep.
Hey Lee, we got Lee Kjos here on the podcast today. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me
Pretty.
on.
Thanks for being on, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, so I invited you. Of course, your catalog is just amazing. But how this all started getting you on here, I reached out to Boss looking for somebody to interview, and they're like, "Hey, tag Lee, you're it." So I'll probably ask you some general outdoors questions today, but I really want to talk to you about this cool Boss product you got.
Hmm.
But before, for those who don't know, can you kind of just give us your bio a little bit, a little summary?
Well, I mean, I guess, if anybody would recognize the name, they would recognize it from photography I've done for, you know, 3 decades in the outdoor world. Lots of Benelli work and like in the waterfalling world, like Rig 'em Right and Sport Dog and Kimber and Springfield and Under Armour back in the day, big lots of big outdoor work, right? And then
Yeah.
many like covers on Ducks Unlimited and Shooting Sportsman and Wildfowl. And then along with the photography, it branded or rebranded a lot of outdoor companies. But lots of work. So if anybody, I guess if they recognize the name, that's what it would be from. So
That's pretty cool. I watch. On my weekends, I get a little free time, so because I missed a lot of hunting season, I want to go back and I watch the YouTube videos. I just rewatched the To Kill a King with Tony Vandemore.
Yeah,
that series.
That was me that put all that together for Benelli when we launched the Super Black Eagle 3. So
yeah, so I just rewatched all that, and man, those harsh conditions, I can't imagine y'all trying to film and do stuff.
Oh, it's harsh. Oh, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, that salt water. It's it's not only the country's harsh, but the salt makes it harsh because the wind is constantly picking up water from the ocean and laying it out there. So you're never dry. And anything that's metal is going to take a beating.
Oh yeah.
Right? So when we were going to do the launch on Super Black Eagle 3, Benelli, they're in Aquakeek, Maryland, and they called me and they're like, can you fly in and we'll talk about what we're going to do here. So I flew in and they're like, what would be the harshest environment or climate that you've ever been in duck hunting? And I'm like, oh, it's St. Paul. It's the Aleutian. We call it the Rock, right? It's nasty, right? I've been there a number of times and I've personally have never seen a nice day out there, right? I know what happens. I haven't seen one. We've killed a number of cameras out there due to the salt. So I said, let's bring the gun and let's do a film based around hunting king eiders out on St. Paul. So yeah,
but that was cool. And then seeing you on there, and I watched a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and y'all on there. And I love your pictures. You mentioned wildfowl. I literally just got my first article in the August wildfowl.
No kidding.
Skip gave me a page in there about taking my son on his first duck hunt.
Oh, very cool.
Dude, it was just cool. And now I've got that for me and my son. And it's just magazine print. It's still cool. I know we're in social media age, but print is still cool. And
you know what, dude? Zach and I were just talking about this because we do quite a bit of print, right? Because I'm a huge believer in print still. And I'm like, I tell you what, I said, as soon as McDonald's gets out of print, I'll think about it, but it's not true. It's a different demographic.
Yeah,
that's all, right?
Yeah, it's cool, and the fact you still, and I love your covers on Ducks Unlimited magazines, and so I followed you for a while, and it's just been super cool. In fact, last week, a buddy of mine, he's a R&D manager for Polaris Ranger, and I did him on the podcast, and Chris Hendricks is his name. And so I'm gonna release his this coming week. And he said, "Who you got next?" I said, "I'm hoping Lee Kjos." He and I've been talking. He's like, "I just met him." He said, "I was at the Ducks waterfowl." He's like, "I told somebody that knew him." He's like, "I said, can you please introduce me?" He said, so they went like, "Hey Lee, this is Chris." He said, "He's out there doing shotguns, putting them on paper, getting everything done. He said, just working. He said, you probably don't remember me. He said, but dude, it's just so cool just to go meet him for a second.
Oh, that's nice. That's always nice to hear. I love the industry and the work that we get to do in the industry. And, but more than anything is I love the people that are in the industry and seeing friends, and super stoked right now that this COVID thing is coming to an end or ending, and SHOT Show is going to open up. So I'm going to get to go see my friends again at SHOT Show, and trade shows and consumer shows are going to be going on again. And I mean, I'm super happy about that. Love people.
Yeah, I got 7 years as a recruiter for the Army, man. I'm just a people person. So when all this stuff shut down,
oh, it's bad.
It's man, I hate to not just driving somebody's house, going work on hunting land, going doing whatever, and everybody just shut in. You couldn't get products, so it was miserable for me as well.
Right. Yeah.
So
for sure.
But hey, got you in here to talk about Boss, right? So I was listening to a podcast the other day. I think it was with the Drury Boys, and you were talking about how they come to you and kind of had this idea, and you kind of wrap shot around the industry, right? About how you brought it to the industry. Kind of tell me about that.
Well, Brandon Sarecki is he's really the guy that came up with the shell, and it kind of a roundabout way. Took him a little while to get to me, but his son got a little boy. His name's Landon, and Brandon really wanted to start doing stuff with Landon and going duck hunting.
Yeah.
And he remembered duck hunting with his dad, and he remembered what like killing a duck looked like. And he said, these shells that I'm shooting right now that are available to people, they don't kill ducks like they used to. So Brandon, being a metal plater by trade and very, very like an engineer, like very savvy dude, right? He's really good man. Oh yeah, he's brilliant mind. Yep. He came up with this shell, and he started to go on hunting trips, and he would leave the shells that he would bring, that he would load, and he'd leave them there when he left. Well, the guides started to shoot him. Well, you go back the next year and the guides are like, hey dude, you bring any more of those shells with? And he's like, yeah, I got a bunch of them with. Well, bottom line is these people were shooting these shells, and they kept telling him, they're like, dude, you should do something with these. And he's like, yeah, you think so? And one thing leads to another, and he starts to ask people in the community who can help him bring this product to market. Well, eventually he came to me and he asked me if I could help. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's right in my wheelhouse. I could do this one.
Yeah.
He flew up to meet me and my wife at our farm in Minnesota, and we talked about it and decided to bring the company that we could make the very, very best product at an affordable price, but we'd have to do it direct to consumer to do it. So that's really where it started. And then it started to evolve, and then we added the copper plating to it, and we got the patent on plating high density metal.
Tell me about that. Why do you add the copper plating to the business?
I mean, this really would be a much better question for Brandon because he's a lot smarter in this area. But I'm 61 years old. Brandon's 30. I think he's 38. Zach's 35. And I shot lead, right? And I used to tell people the very best shell that was ever made was a Winchester XX copper plated #6 for geese, all things, ducks, geese, little geese, pheasants, any copper plated 6s, maybe late in the year on giant field bully honkers, maybe something like a copper plated 3-inch 2, but that's lead. Okay.
Yeah.
That's lead back in the day. So Brandon called me one night. He's like, what did that copper do on it? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I can't quantify any of it, but I mean, it like wrecked birds. I mean, it hit birds like a ton of bricks, right? I mean, it was a hammer. Yeah. Clearly different than who I was sitting next to or shooting next to when I would you know, shoot. So
Yeah.
he's like, well, hell, he goes, I own a plating business. He's like, I'm going to go plate this shit. Right. So
Yeah.
he took a batch of 5s and then he went and plated them. And then we patterned them with the same gun and choke that we were doing our test patterns with before. And what we found out was we had like 10 to 15% more pattern density. But the real kicker was when we put it in a gel block and we shot it next to like a BOSS copper plated 4 next to an old school lead 4. And it was equal to or even greater in the gel block. Now, to be fair, not copper plated lead, but a standard lead shell versus a copper plated, right? So what I tell people, and I got no problem backing this one up, no problem at all. For those of the people out there back in the day that are my age that shot lead, copper plated BOSS is like shooting lead back in the day. Okay. For those of the young fellas out there, the young bucks that never got a chance to shoot it, this is your chance to shoot it. That's what it's like. So yeah, it's really, really fun to be able to be a part of the best.
That's pretty neat. So my first time duck hunting was in 04.
Yep.
I was a senior in high school, and it was December right before our finals were that day. So we went duck hunting. Friends took me that morning because we had to go to school till late and we had exams. And so lead has never been an option for me in my career or duck hunting, right?
Right.
I can, like, when I first got out, there, like Black Cloud was like the big thing, back in 04. I thought, this is it, it's so much powder and so much stuff, and then tweaking that, and then hypersonic come out, and everybody's just trying to get the most out of steel they could get out. And then I do ballistics in the Army, old infantry guy, stuff like that. So I'm on lead range all day long, shooting weapons, stuff like that. Yep. And of course, trap shooting, target shooting. And so when I started studying other metals a couple years ago, and really when I started seeing IRA posting on it, I thought, all right, what is this bismuth? What is it? I knew what it was, but I didn't know anybody that shot it. And then so when I started experimenting all this stuff, it's a big difference. And to the point to where I have a hunting club in Alabama that I duck hunt on, and then I have a lodge in Arkansas that I run also, just a private club. Mm-hmm. And I'd get to where I was losing confidence in my shooting ability because I'm like, I know I hit that bird. I know I seen feathers fly. Yeah, I know I did this,
Yeah.
And I was losing confidence. And then some other guys had some bismuth shells at the time. And this is right before I started looking at y'all, and the bismuth would just boom, boom. There was no miss, even there was no feathers flying. It was bird down, bird down, bird down. Yeah. And to me, when you're looking at the crippling rate, and if you're a real true, trying to conserve and do the ethical thing, man, what's 3 shells of steel versus 1 shell of BOSS, something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, what you're talking about right now is you're leading me into like total BOSS narratives, right? Like when somebody goes, well, they're like, and we hear it all the time, right? They're like, well, I mean, yeah, I'd love to shoot it, but it's too expensive. Well, first of all, it's not expensive. And it only costs more the day that somebody would pick it off the shelf, like a steel box, right?
Yeah.
Box of steel, right? If you're on water and you cripple a duck and you're shooting a 3-inch BB or a 3-inch 2 and you're trying to kill that crippled duck on the water, you're gonna quickly realize why. No, it's not cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to have much of what we're talking about is like when you said you started to question your own shooting ability, right? Because you're like, I know I hit that bird, right? Much of what we're talking about is a math problem. Right? It's math.
Yeah.
It's math why one won't kill it and one will stone it.
Yeah.
Right? It's density. It's like here's another thing I tell people all the time. I mean, you can argue 2 + 2 is 4, but you're wrong. Right? I mean, you're just wrong. So The only real argument that anybody can really make, and it's not a good one to me, but it's just cost. To them, they're like, I don't want to spend the money on it. I really don't understand that, because the cost of the sport is so expensive anyway, right? Well, I shouldn't say
Oh
anyway.
yeah,
It's expensive. It's
it
expensive
is.
to do it,
We
right?
are a gear-driven sport.
Oh my, it's nuts. The shell is the tiniest portion of the whole part, and maybe the most important part. So it's really it's an odd thing, but it's something that we're probably going to always have to fight. But
Yeah.
changing the narrative is happening, especially when we start talking about the crippling rate and how we can help with that. And consumer experience, like how nice it is to like pull up on a bird and cleanly kill it, just fold them up. And I mean, that's, shoot them with smaller shot sizes, and the meat's not as bruised, the meat's not as tore up as like hitting something close range with a 3-inch 2 or a 3-inch BB. It's just.
Oh yeah, it makes me sick, and I did it for years. I'll go back. I'll preface with this. So I got a dog. I've had a dog. She's 6 years old.
Yep.
Got all the titles she can have, but she's my duck dog. She's my babysitter. So, but I got a dog, A, to add to my hunting experience, and to B, to help from losing birds, because it makes me sick, absolutely sick to lose birds, to where we'll stop hunting to try to find them. Birds are trying to come in. We're missing volleys because we're hunting birds that we can't find, that were crippled and went under or swam away. And so anything I can do to drop a bird, let my dog go get it, come back and get the next ducks that come in, you're just adding to overall experience. So yeah, you're talking about, maybe BOSS is more expensive off the shelf when you buy it that day. But like an old horse trader used to tell me, expensive is cheap, right? You get what you pay for, you get what you're gonna pay for it. You're gonna use that one shell versus 3 shells, or 3 shells and still lose the bird, or like you were saying. So
if you do your homework and you put it on paper and you understand the relationship between your bore diameter, the choke, and the shell, and what you're shooting, what game you're shooting, and at what distance, if you do your homework, I can almost promise that the experience for the hunter will be better, and your crippling rate and your lost bird rate will go way down.
When you're talking to all these people, what percentage do you find people that do or do not pattern their gun and their shells?
Zach, what do you think? 95% of the people don't pattern?
Yeah, probably.
95% don't, I'd say.
Really? So
okay, let me ask you. Do you hunt big game?
I do. I hunt deer.
I used to. I don't anymore, because you can't hunt them with dogs. So, I'm a dog freak. But let's say you drew a sheep tag, right? Archery or rifle, wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to practice and work out, even train to go on that sheep hunt.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to get your gun, you're going to dial it in, the scope, the shell, you're going to get your groups together. You got one shot, right? Or if it's archery, if it's archery, you're going to shoot I don't know how many arrows.
Yeah, religiously.
Yep, religious. You're going to, the weight of all of it, you're going to just get it dialed in, right? For the life of me, I don't understand why people don't do that in the upland in waterfowl hunting. I just don't get it. I want to know what my gun does.
Yeah.
But by choke, by distance, by shell, by how I hunt, right? How I hunt. I also think a lot of people say that, well, I only shoot finished birds. And I really only take shots that are inside 25 yards or 30 yards. I don't know about that. I think people shoot at great distance. Zach, what do you think? Don't you think people shoot far?
I don't think they realize how far 40.
He's got a great point there. When you pattern, when you set up a pattern, and I tell somebody, or we tell somebody to shoot at 40 yards, I don't think people really realize how far 40 yards is.
Probably
right?
not.
And then you look at it and you go, oh, I've seen people shoot a lot farther than that. That's too far. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't kill them at that. I'm just saying now you're starting to creep into the crippling world,
Yeah.
right? You're taking a crippling, yeah, for sure.
And so what do you feel like is the ethical shot distance, is it subjective or is it depend? Because to me, I feel like just at my skill level, and it's different, flat level, shooting in the sky, your elevation. I feel like 40 yards and in, I'm very confident.
Right.
I want them in closer.
I think,
do.
yeah, of course.
But 40 yards and in, I think I'm very confident I can hit my target. And if I have the right thing behind what I'm hitting at, then it shouldn't be an issue. Is that an ethical distance, or what do you feel?
I don't think I would get into like what ethical is.
Subjective.
I don't want to go down that road, but I think that's a self-awareness thing. I mean, there's some duck hunters that I've hunted with that they're pretty good with a shotgun, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
when they shoot, they kill shit, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've been with others that, man, they struggle. They struggle with it. So it really depends on what you do. Like if you're prepared, and we're huge proponents of putting it on paper, pattern your gun, 30 yards, 50 yards, even to see it at 50. See what,
So at least you know.
At
least
so
you
that
know.
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to know when your gun falls apart.
Yeah.
When the pattern falls apart, it's starting to fall apart here. But I mean, can you still kill ducks and geese straight overhead at 50 yards when yeah, of course you can. Full choke, copper plated 3s, 4s, 3.5s, stuff like that. Things that hit hard, carry major energy at distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and then being like you said, the importance of putting on paper, hunting. Even me, I've got 7 years in the infantry, right? So we spend a day grouping in zero, and before you ever even go to the range, right? I mean, we spend a whole day, hundreds and hundreds of rounds trying to group in zero, putting iron sights, CCO, different sights, different elevations. We get to other places. You got to adjust your dopage a little bit. So we spend so much time on paper before we even go to the range, and then so much time on the range before we even go into combat.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what my rifle's going to do in a house. I know what my rifle's going to do at 5,000 foot elevation. I know what my rifle, and because I've trained for it, and I just know. I know what 223 at a 16-inch barrel at 5,000 foot elevation. I know what it's going to do.
That's it. I mean, how do we get that kind of narrative in the outdoor world, waterfalling or upland hunting, where people actually go do that, put their gun on paper and take a look at what it does so they know? I think it would make a big difference. There's between 3.4 and 3.7 million ducks and geese lost a year due to crippling.
Lost?
Okay? Lost.
Wow.
If we change the narrative and people start doing these things that were, and I don't want to sound like a preacher, like I'm preaching, but it's a fact. If we do these things, I think we can cut that number in half in 1 year. Just by a simple narrative shift, and people actually doing it and going, well, yeah, I never thought about that. I should, if I let that bird come a little closer, it would have been a really good kill shot. Or maybe I don't know what my choke is doing. Maybe, there's all kinds of factors here. But if people do it, do I think we could do that? So think about 3.4 to 3.7 million. What is that? 1.7, 1.8 roughly. We could send north every year to breed.
I mean, so I didn't realize the number was that big on the projected.
There's a biologist in Missouri that just finished a lead poisoning study research in mourning dove hunting, mourning doves. I think I'd have to go back. I could be questioned on this. My numbers on this is paraphrasing here, but I believe there's 26 states that allow dove hunting. Big states, number one by far and away is Texas. I think California's number two, and then South Dakota, and so on. Anyway, he said that there's 20 million doves harvested in a year in North America, and 15 million die due to lead poisoning. Okay. Don't think,
Wow.
I mean, this isn't like just me talking here. This is a
Yeah.
biologist report that they research that they can go find.
Yeah.
So think about all these little narrative shifts that can happen in our culture and have huge impacts on wildlife or ducks, geese, whatever, uplands, whatever. Okay. How do we get messages like that out? So if that would be like if somebody said, "Who is boss?" Right? What do you do?
Yeah.
Who are you? Why are you? And why does it matter? Right? Well, we're a shotgun shell manufacturer, right? Legendary lead-like performance from our door to yours. That's what we are. What we believe in is putting it on paper, doing your homework, and becoming absolutely as good as you can at effectively killing, right? I think we owe it to the birds that we hunt to do that.
That makes sense to me. And I think what you're doing now, my podcast, you do a lot of podcasts. They said, my buddy told me at the Ducks Warp Out, he was preaching on paper. And he said, I had to kick back and look at myself thinking, how much do I spend, ahead of time? And so he said he's got him an old M1 Super 90. And so he puts it down and working it that way. And so, I mean, it's working. The people are talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think y'all doing the right thing.
It is working. Zach was just telling me, I think it was yesterday or the day before at BOSS, a group of guys called up the shop and they wanted to come in and pattern their guns and learn about BOSS and learn how to pattern and all that. And I think Zach said, what, a handful of the guys were shooting Benellis and one dude was shooting an SX4, a Winchester Super X4. And was it 2 3/4 inch fives? Fours, 2 3/4 inch fours, because they're going up to Alaska, up to Charlie Somerville's place on St. Paul Island, where we did where we did the film you're talking
Killer King with Tony,
yeah. And Zach said the dude shooting this SX4 with an improved cylinder shot at 80 what? Mid 80s? Mid 80s percentage pattern at 30 yards. And then it only dropped to like 82% at 40 yards. And Zach looked at him and goes, well, here's the point. Because typically we say start with factory full.
Yeah.
And take a look at that and work your way down. But Zach looked at that improved cylinder pattern. He's like, dude, just
that have been improved.
Keep that in there and don't take it out.
Run it.
So, but like some other guns might be an improved modified, or it might be a full.
Yeah.
It typically copper plated BOSS does like tight chokes, and it does fit with another one of our narratives where we would rather have clean misses or clean kills.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a clean miss, but crippling shots, like big, wide open patterns that aren't retaining any energy. I mean, you can have a mess of cripples.
Well, let me ask you what we're talking about that before we get on some of those new products. And I'm asking generally for me, my purpose, and I know you're not gonna be able to know without putting it on paper, but you can kind of give me where to start. So when I'm in Arkansas hunting, I hunt out of fields, right? 12 gauge. I'm shooting anything from specs to teal. Yep. So if I wanted to choose one of y'all shells to start patterning, or one or two that I wouldn't have to change shells, or if I want the same shell to shoot teal, the same shell to shoot specs within 40 yards, where would I start? What would you recommend? Start with this one, pattern it, try this one.
Shoot the 3.5.
Shoot the 3.5.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's not 3-inch number 5.
A 3.5 combo.
A 3-inch 3.5. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I seen those 3.5s on there.
100%. Shoot the 3.5. If you're looking for a shell that's kind of a a do-all that it's, I hate to say a do-all shell because that kind of makes it sound like it's not as good as this at that and not, but it's a good, no, this thing's way good, period. It's a killer.
And that's what, when shooting steel in the past, I never could hardly use the same shell for teal as I could for specs, and or I'd blow the teal up, or
we might have a solution coming out for that problem here pretty quick that we're going to give it a good test drive this fall. We don't want to put anything out there that we haven't personally put through the paces. So we probably have a fall to go through it, but look for maybe something towards the end of the year that might be pretty cool there. But here's the deal. You take a 3.5.
Yeah.
Zach, I know for sure, Zach personally thinks it's our finest shell. And lots of our customers do. And that 3.5 is, it's hell on geese, big geese even.
Yeah.
It's hell on big ducks, right? But if you look at harvest numbers in our country, mallard being number one, and then I think number two right now is wood duck and then blue-winged teal. Well, they're not that big. No. So a 3.5 is an awfully big shell on a duck like that. So I think something like, maybe a blended load, but smaller shot sizes might be really
something to look at. I got you.
Really
something I could hope for in the future, maybe.
I think so. I think so. And then I think there's something about that smaller shot size and a little larger shot size, how the little one tucks in the space or tucks in between the larger one. We don't quite know what it is, but I think it's valid. So if you're talking to friends or anybody and they have any questions on like a shell to shoot, and especially if geese are going to be part of the equation, just shoot that 3.5.
I like it.
I personally think it's the best shell on the market. I do.
Well, I'd definitely be giving it a try for sure.
Yeah.
That's for right there. And what you kind of hinting some stuff for the future, maybe, but stuff I know that y'all got right now. The two items is the new fiber wad with the old school crimp, and
the stinger.
And the saber. Stinger, yeah. So to me, the fiber wad's real cool. I was listening to Brandon talk about that on another podcast, and just because we usually do a good job, just taking care of what we've been given. We always do an awesome job picking up our shells and stuff like that. But you can't. We get wads if we see them, and when the water drains, we try to pick them up in season. But man, you can't. More wads than not are going to be out there in the field somewhere. So that fiber and that, how you talk about he can keep the pressure up, man, that seems pretty cool.
Yep, very cool. We're really excited about fiber wad and stinger both for different reasons, but fiber wad in particular, just to get another single source piece of plastic out of the environment it's a cool thing.
Yeah, and how's the compression looking on there? Y'all holding?
Yeah.
If your foot per second.
Oh yeah, they're fine. Oh yeah, they're great. Zach, what do the fiber wads fly at? 1275? Something like that. I think our normal copper plated shells, we tell people fly at like 1350, but our 1350 is in cold temperatures. Lots of other people, we test our shells when we think people are hunting, and typically it's pretty cold.
Yeah.
So and we actually test them too after freezing them. We put them in a freezer and freeze them. And
really?
Mm-hmm. That's when shells will fail mostly, when it's really cold.
So y'all really testing at the cold temperature. That's what we're using them at.
Oh yeah.
We're not duck cutting most days on sunny bluebird 70-degree days.
We kind of picked 40 degrees because we kind of thought maybe that was an average.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an average. Even though us in northern Minnesota, we we hunt in a lot colder temperatures than 40 degrees, but that would be a nice day.
Yeah, in Alabama, we're half time we're still killing mosquitoes and shooting wood ducks at the same time. So
Right,
it's scary, y'all. We don't know which one's bigger.
right.
But and then he said the new Stinger round. I noticed a little bit about it.
Yeah, the Stinger, but what it is it's a 1 ounce 12 gauge load. So have you ever heard the term a square load?
I have not.
Okay, like loaders, reloaders that know their ballistics know that shells that are square, and that means like the shot in the shot column is as long as the diameter of it, right? So it's a square load, right?
Oh, that's like as in squared.
Nothing else
Oh.
is squared. The length by the diameter is like equal.
Now
Okay.
I'm tracking.
The squarer the load is, the better they perform.
Okay.
Meaning, like, well, the other day I shot a 28 gauge, an Ethos Cordoba, Benelli Ethos Cordoba 28 gauge with a 2 3/4 and 7, and shot a 90, 93 or 9, I think a 92% pattern at 40 yards, 92% in a 30-inch circle. And then I dropped down to improve cylinder, and I think it went to 88%, but 88% is a staggering number.
Oh
That's
yeah,
because,
that's still.
that's because the 28 gauge is probably the best performing, most efficient shell made because of that. So we made that in a 12 gauge.
Okay.
Here's the funny thing. So you could take a 12 gauge shell, that's a 1 ounce load, a Stinger.
Yeah.
People would go, no, I want more shot than that. Well, if you'd look at the pattern and you'd realize that you just took a 1 ounce load, but you put them all in one place. You could have an 1 1/4 ounce, an 1.5 ounces, and have some of them out here, right?
Yeah.
But they're right there. So
And so you're doing that in
very,
12 and
very, very, very effective shell, 30 yards and in. Little bit lower pressure, little bit lower recoil, definitely a little bit on noise. So it has huge value in, like, I would say, like tight quarters or skinny quarters,
okay.
right?
I'm about to say, what's the market? What's the market for that? What are y'all going to market
I mean,
that as?
any 12 gauge upland.
Yeah.
I mean, any 12 gauge upland, I think it would be a wonderful shell in timber, hunting ducks in timber, skinny creeks, skinny water.
Some sloughs, some
Yep.
oxbows.
Yep.
Man, that just
Definitely.
seems pretty
I mean,
cool.
if I was hunting big ducks, sea ducks out on the ocean, maybe no, that might not be the right place for that shell. I would probably go with a 3-inch 3.5 or 3-inch 3.4 or something like that. But
Well, that makes sense. A lot of my hunting in Alabama is kind of small area because I'm hunting buck brush, I'm hunting sloughs, I'm
You'd
hunting
love
beaver
it.
ponds.
So you
stuff
have
like
lots
that.
of shots that are 25 yards, right?
Lots.
Dude, shoot the Stinger.
Shoot the Stinger. I
Yep.
might give it a try.
Yep. You could even
And
drop down. You could even drop down and shoot a 2 3/4 and 7.
And see, that's another thing I like about all this. So, because on the Bisbees, you can just drop your numbers down to 7, something like that, and you're getting so much more. It's like slinging a golf ball and a ping pong ball at the same. You're getting so much more.
Yep. And just remember, everything is a math problem.
Yeah.
Right. If you're taking wood ducks and blue-winged teal, widgeon, smaller ducks, and you move them into an area where you're shooting them roughly at 35 yards or 30 yards and in, what you want is you want to drop your shot size down and increase your pattern density. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you want to do.
100%.
Right? The reason you might go like, well, why hasn't anybody talked like that? Well, the shell manufacturers that are at the box store, first of all, I don't think they really want you to know that, nor maybe they don't know it.
Yeah.
They're trying to sell you a certain product, right? A special shell for teal, a special one for snow geese, a special one for this. all of that stuff, right? It's marketing nonsense, really, all of it is, right? You just
Yeah.
look at payload and shot size selection and pattern density and put it on paper and figure out what's best for what you do. I mean, it's fun. It's really fun to know what your gun does. Like
Oh yeah.
when you start adding it up and you do the math, I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be a surgeon than a demolition man.
Right.
You know, I'd rather, like you said, know what's happening.
Yep. Yep.
Get the scalpel instead of the axe sometimes.
Yep.
So talk about sub gauges. I've gotten really big. And a buddy of mine, Chris Aiken, got a big kennel there in Arkansas.
Chris Aiken? Oh my God, dude, that guy's awesome. He's an old friend of mine. Oh my!
I just talked to him this morning. So I probably talked to him
for years.
3 or 4 times a week. Yeah.
Mm.
So his club, right? So that's who. Just a caveat. So that's who I get my pits from. That's who I get my lodge from. That's who trained my dog for me when I couldn't train her. In fact, we just bred her again to his personal dog for the 3rd time.
You must have a good dog if Chris trained it.
Oh yeah, well she's good to me. Now don't get me wrong, I got a 5-year-old and my daughter turns 1 at the end of the week, so I care more about her being their dog than anything. But she can do that, and I can take her hunting.
Here's how long I've known Aiken. I photographed him and Boomer.
Boomer, man, what a dog! Great Outdoor Games 2003.
He might be one of the best ever.
So if you go back and look at my catalog on here, my very first podcast I did was him. So I was like, dude, I need somebody to practice on, and you're the only one that won't make fun of me while people are around, you know. So he let me practice on him for my first podcast.
Right.
So yeah, I talked to him this morning. He's good. The family's great, but heck of a dog trainer. But talking about sub gauges. So every now and then I'm lucky enough to go hunt with him at his place. And they got a sub gauge limit, 20 gauge is the cap, and they'd rather you shoot a 28 or 410. And so I started getting into sub gauges, so going and hunting with him. So I got 28 gauge, old Remington 1100. So I just loved it out there. And so then back home now, so if I'm not hunting fields in Arkansas, like straight up wide open rice fields, bean fields, I'm usually using my 28 gauge, 16 gauge, a 20 gauge, and I'm just going through them. If my wife's with me, I give her the 28 gauge. And I've got an old 16 gauge with a fixed modified barrel and a fixed full barrel. And I pattern both barrels to see which one I like the best. And then, just fix. And it's just so cool just to get those old guns out there. And even, they make them new now. The Ethos 28, I haven't got to shoot that one yet, but it looks super cool.
Oh,
I know Tony loves it. Tony loves it. I know.
It's a great gun. That Ethos Cordoba, the new one, Ethos Cordoba is a black gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really nice gun.
Yeah, I'm about to try me out one then. In fact, I had an old M1 Super 90 tactical with the pistol grip when I first joined Army long time ago.
Yeah.
And then I had when I first started duck hunting, I got a used Nova for a while, and so those are what I used for a long time. But just going to these sub, it's just so cool, and you can just keep shooting. And you talk about 28 gauge just being a great round. I mean, I just smashed them. Shots. People are like, how you hit that? And I'm like, man, I don't know. It's just I love it. It's just so fun to shoot them.
Mm-hmm. They're fun to shoot. Yep. And
with rounds like y'all, I'm talking about losing my confidence. I feel more confident shooting something like that at them than trying to sling something else. So you said y'all love 28 gauge as well.
Yes, we do. Yep.
So what kind of scenario do you usually hunt them with?
We hunt.
What do you hunt? What do you hunt everything with 28 gauge?
I shot every bird I shot last year. I shot with a 28 gauge.
Really?
Honkers, greenheads, teal, rough grouse. It don't matter. We shoot everything with them. Zach shoots a 20 gauge a lot. Actually, we took the brand new Benelli Super Black Eagle 3-inch 20 gauge to Adak Island, Alaska with us last year. And I think Zach he shot a pilot. Like, I think the first thing he killed was a beautiful Drake Harlequin duck with that 20 gauge. When I think he was shooting 3-inch 5s.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was.
Shooting.
And then,
and that's
like a flock of one morning I remember it was really, really rough out, really rough, snowing and blowing and nasty, and a big flock of greater Scott came in and he took a clean triple with that gun, and it was that was a thing of beauty. Yeah, left to right crossers, and yeah, it's really fun.
Well, that's super cool, and I see that's because started research again when I decided to email y'all because I had my shells and I wanted to see if y'all gonna come out with some sub gauge, and I got to look another week and y'all got everything, 10 gauge to 14 and everything.
Well,
you even did the purple holes on the 16 gauge. Old
yes,
school purple.
we do. Do we have them now? We still do. We still, yeah, we have them. But I do think I do think there might be a bit of a shortage coming, like the end of this year and stuff like that, with shells for not just us, everybody. I mean, it's
everybody.
Yeah.
So how have y'all mitigated that the best y'all can with all that stuff?
We just do it. We do what we can. We're fine right now. Everything's fine right now, but we're hearing rumblings that maybe towards the end of the year it might get weird. So if you have guys, your listeners and stuff like that, and I mean, it might be beneficial for them to jump on maybe a little sooner than
just
later.
Just go ahead and order what they think they might want for the season.
Yep.
It's pretty.
Yeah, and don't hoard or anything like that. Leave some for the other guys too. But take, if you need something, probably buy it sooner than later for sure.
Y'all see, did y'all see that when all this stuff started first happening with COVID? Y'all see people just start buying a bunch and just big orders?
Maybe some people. I'm not that smart. I don't know how to read like that.
You just talk to people.
We're duck hunters, so yeah.
Alabama's a flea market state. I can tell you that. So if I can figure it out, I gotta have it broken down Crayola style for me. So if I can figure it out, anybody can.
Right.
And you talking about the sport earlier. We'll kind of get back into the outdoors in general. Man, I was telling somebody that day they didn't understand how duck hunting was a sport. And I said, dude, this is the coolest sport there is. I said, the outdoor industry in a total is the coolest sport there is. I said, everybody's on the same team. Everybody's playing together. I said, and maybe playing different sports, but you can jump sports. And I said, I mean, just everything you got to do is just cool. And so I think it's just a cool sport we have and that we're afforded to do.
Yep.
So I don't know, buddy, but I think we've hit a lot of stuff. You give me a wealth of knowledge. I don't know if I've done a podcast or I've gone to church, one of the two. So just tell me stuff.
Anytime you want us on, anybody from Boss, Zach, Brandon, anytime you want anybody, just holler at us.
Appreciate you. If y'all ever want to come hunt our way, just let me know. I got some catching.
We'll be there this year, so
yeah.
We'll be down there hunting ducks this fall.
Yeah,
for sure. Where are you? Where are you, by the way, when you're down there?
When I got it. My house is in Bono, and I got farms between Bono, Jonesboro, Walnut Ridge, Egypt. So we're kind of spread out across the whole county because you never know. Sometimes the south end of the county's on fire, and north end of the county's not, and vice versa. So we spread out.
Yep. Very cool. We're doing quite a bit of business this year down in Stuttgart area, so that's really cool. Zach and I are actually going to load a bunch of the shells that people have bought, the lodges or whatever have bought down there, and come down there later this summer and deliver them. And
that'd be cool. Love
that area. Love it.
Oh yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun shooting them in my backyard too, but I love traveling to shoot them.
Yep. Well,
guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, guys, and hopefully I'll see y'all soon.
Anytime. Thank you.
You too, buddy.
Yep.